otherwise it gets smooshed and tall, or it gets wide, or it's kind of canted to the right or the left.
The portrait that I'm shooting has a pipe and a top hat and whatever else.
Mine would be like one of those connect the dot giraffes where you have to visualize the rest of it. You just have to count the numbers. That's.
But I mean, that's thing that it used to be a thing, and it's really hard. If you want to try it sometime, you can go to I went one time. I had a shoot with a bunch of people coming around, so I made these little 1 by 1 inch wood frames. And I went and bought the flashing material that was there. Mm-hmm. And I just cut it in I think it was like 20-inch pieces.
Okay.
And I stapled it onto these boards. When you came in, I give you a 50-round box of 22s and this board. And you had to shoot your initials onto this paper.
Okay.
And use as many rounds as you needed to. And then at the end, they judged them to see who could actually
tell what letter it is.
And it was.
Am I allowed to use a magic marker to help?
No, but it was amazingly bad. I mean, it was a lot harder than you would think.
It would be way easier if your initials were like A-N, because you could go boop, 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 boop.
Yeah,
okay,
but even at that, it looked like a drunk A-N or something. But it was a lot harder than you would expect. And I thought that was going to be a fun thing, and it was a little more difficult.
And you're like, oh, yeah, really? Yeah, really. But no, those are the kind of things where everybody's laughing and joking and challenging one another. And if your friends are good shots, they up your game. They make you better just by you going and having a friendly competition to say, can I outshoot you? Can you outshoot me? Who's going home today with the bragging rights?
I think sometimes even like that, if you just got a big sheet of tin like that and you try to just shoot an X, it's hard to shoot a straight line and keep everything going.
Well, we all know how hard it is just to shoot a single spot. So let alone a big X.
Right, and if you didn't draw the X out ahead of time and you're just trying to visualize where the next one's supposed to be, it's not necessarily there.
It's not there. It is not there.
So any of you guys, if you want to get together with your friends and have a fun afternoon, just get yourself some flashing material, roll it out, cut it, and then make some frames. I just stapled on with the Arrow T50 stapler. It worked good, and
not everybody else is going to remember or memorize the serial number on your stapler or your model number on your stapler. So it's just the stapler.
Normal. If you got
person, all incident
Securely relate and defend.
Keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a Range Master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Had a dirty day? Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps, made from fresh goat's milk and organic oils that detoxify, clean, and restore moisture to skin, will get you ready for your next adventure. These unique soaps are handcrafted in the Blue Ridge Mountains and shipped to anywhere in the U.S. Visit SillyBillyGoatFarm.com for their full line of Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps. That's SillyBillyGoatFarm.com.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com. the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
So this is our history section, and every week we talk about something a little different. And when I asked Rob, what are we going to talk about? What are we talking about in the history section? He's like, I don't know, decide. So I was like, okay, I want to talk about targets. You know, the clay targets and the original clay pigeons, and when they used to throw up glass balls and all of that, and the initiation of paper targets. And he's like, I'll come up with something.
Let's talk rifling.
So I just want you to know, I thought it was interesting that when they originally had a glass blower who made the targets, and when they crushed,
funny to try to make it look like a real pigeon, they would actually put feathers in it, so in the glass,
I think it was cool.
Float down.
That was kind of cool.
How's that for artificially exciting the PETA people or something?
Something, because the poor pigeon that got to survive, but we plucked him because he had to be
chicken feathers or something.
It was like, here, have some more vitamins. You're the donor pigeon.
But I want to talk about bullets. How's that? They're more exciting.
Bullets are more exciting.
A lot of people have seen the rimfire ammo. And back in the day, Civil War era, and just before, when the muzzleloading guns were converted to cartridge guns, a lot of times they were converted to rimfire guns. So the 32s, 38s, all that stuff was all rimfire.
Because it was much easier to convert it to a rimfire, because you just put in the chamber.
Expose a little bit of the rim, and then
you put a counterbore in there.
V or a dent in the back of the hammer so that it would hit it, and that's all it took.
Wow, it was simpler, yeah.
When you had to try to make an actual firing pin, it made it a little more tricky at that point. But Colt stuck with the dimensions of the original rimfire stuff.
Okay.
And they used what they called a heeled bullet. So the outside of the rim, and
like your foot heeled.
Yep.
Okay, got it.
So it had a little heel. If you're interested, take a 22 bullet today and pull it apart, and you'll see there's a little ledge on the back that's smaller than the actual diameter that rubs on the rifling.
Okay.
And that's a heeled bullet. It fits down inside the case. So the case is the same diameter as the bullet all the way through. So Smith & Wesson had a better idea, and they went to what is called an inside lubricated cartridge.
Okay.
So the old ones, they would just dip them in wax or something to try to lube them up. It rubbed off in your pocket. It collected a bunch of lint and everything, and didn't work well. But the Smith & Wesson, the 32 Smith & Wesson, 38 Smith & Wesson were what they called inside lubricated, and that they had grooves on the bullet that were actually lubed. And early on, they were trying to even get more lube into it. They would make it kind of like a mini, where it had the grease in a hollow bullet, and then it had holes drilled out into the bullet.
So that as the pressure went, it
pushed the grease out the holes to lubricate the bore as the bullet slid up along it.
That's a brilliant idea, but man, was that a lot of work to make each
so
bullet.
When you think about it, in the 1870s, they were trying to do that stuff. And then they realized
so we would cast it and drill it, and wow.
They realized that they didn't really need it, so they got away from that. But the inside lubricated bullets became more popular, and the outside lubricated or the heel type bullets went away. Colt made a 32 Colt short and long, 38 Colt short and long, and the Smith & Wesson, they also made but the rimfire guns were the identical size to the Colt. So like on a Marlin, you'll notice that if you have the Marlin 1892, they made a 32 rifle, and you could take the firing pin out and change it, and you could switch from rimfire to centerfire by just changing your.
Okay.
So you use the same 32 rimfire longs or 32 Colt longs would shoot through this Marlin. But the Smith & Wesson ammo was too big around; it wouldn't go in.
Okay.
You'll see it on 22 versus 22 Magnum today. The 22 Magnum, the bullet actually fits down inside the case, and the 22 long rifle actually just kind of sits on the end of it. So it's different than what their lines of thoughts were over the years and how they were doing some of this stuff. And then too,
well, I think it's interesting that just the transition as they went from I've got an idea, whatever that idea is, and then that idea just didn't go, anywhere. This guy's idea went completely. That guy's idea went forward. All of those.
Well,
kinds
it's funny
of things.
too. Colt didn't want to write Smith & Wesson on their pistols,
Right.
so they would change the name. So instead of it being 32 Smith & Wesson, it would just be 32 New Police.
Okay.
And Colt made their own bullets for the New Police, which just had a flat-headed bullet on them, where the Smith & Wesson had a rounded design.
Okay.
But you could tell the one from the other by the New Police had flat bullets, and the old 38 Colt was pointed bullets. And but yeah, for years they just refused to write the Smith & Wesson.
I'm not advertising for the competition.
Right.
That would be what that
there
is.
were a lot of other companies like Merwin Hubert and some of the others that actually made their own bullet. A lot of times it was almost identical to the other, so you could shoot them interchangeably. You just they just didn't tell you that.
Well, yeah, and not anybody's going to write Merlin Hubert on their bullets. I mean, that's like, really?
Well, they just put M&H on it.
Right. But let's talk about the demise of the big rimfires.
Well, they made up to 1-inch rimfire rounds for the Gatling guns and stuff like this. Early on, they realized that the more power that it took to push the bullet out of the barrel, the more likely you were to have a case rupture, which caused all that dirt and gas to go down into the action. It would flame cut the gun sometimes and stuff. So they kind of got away from the bigger stuff.
The more explosions you have that happen in your hand, the less likely you are to gravitate to that.
Most 22s have one firing pin. You'll notice it doesn't work. You turn it a little bit and it'll do it again. On the old the 44 Winchester for the Henry rifle or the 66, they had double firing pins so that it hit the top and the bottom at the same time, and that way then you had more likelihood of hitting some priming compound than it worked all the time. The Swiss the same way with their 41 rimfire. It fired at two different locations too.
So it just left two karate chop marks.
Right.
Okay.
So it's one time
they knew that they weren't consistent, kind of like the 22s. And then you get a box.
It's not if it's going to happen; it's just when it's going.
When it's going to fail to fire, and you prefer not to be betting your life on it at that moment.
At the end of that time period, they really didn't know what a bullet was supposed to look like, and they come up with a case called a Benet case, and it was actually a centerfire case, but it was wrapped in copper, so all of them looked like rimfire cases.
So why did they wrap it in copper?
They just to seal it more, so it kept the moisture out, and also then too.
Okay, because you were betting your life on it, and you were carrying it around.
The military used, I think, up until about 1886, they actually used the Benet style case.
That's kind of cool, though. That's kind of a cool concept. Hey, folks, when we come back, we are going to have Paul Lathrop on the show, and we're going to be talking about AmCon, and so you'll get to hear what it is.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a Range Master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Had a dirty day? Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps, made from fresh goat's milk and organic oils that detoxify, clean, and restore moisture to skin, will get you ready for your next adventure. These unique soaps are handcrafted in the Blue Ridge Mountains and shipped to anywhere in the U.S. Visit SillyBillyGoatFarm.com for their full line of Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps. That's SillyBillyGoatFarm.com. Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America. to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolk and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Hi, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society podcast. I wanted to let you know that the show you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can check out all the shows on the network by going to selfdefenseradio.net or tune in for more on Self-Defense Mondays on Karma Radio, KRMAradio.com.
This is Dan Perkins with your Songs and Stories for Soldiers, Veterans Tip of the Day. If you're a veteran with a disability, are you interested in a program that could give you a free home? Homes for Our Troops is a privately funded 501c3 nonprofit organization that builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post-9/11 veterans to enable them to rebuild their lives. These homes restore some of the freedom and independence our veterans sacrificed while defending our country and enable them to focus on their family and recovery. Since its inception in 2004, nearly 90 cents of every dollar has gone directly to the program to serve veterans. HFOT builds these homes where the veterans choose to live and continues its relationship with the veterans after the home delivery to assist them in rebuilding their lives. For more information, go to their website, www.hfotusa.org, and see if you can qualify for the home of your dreams. This has been your Songs and Stories for Soldiers, Veterans Tip of the Day.
Okay, we're back with our guest segment, and in this segment, we're really reaching out and we're speaking to those of you who have podcasts, who have some kind of a stand for the Second Amendment, whether it is a social media following, whether it is a blog, newspaper writers, those type of Second Amendment voices. Because we have Paul Lathrop coming on, and we're going to be talking about AMCON, which is the alternative mass media. I can't ever remember what its stand is. Paul, hey, thanks for joining us on Eye on the Target Radio.
As always, thank you for having me on. Alternative Mass Media Conference is kind of how it was envisioned. I look at mainstream media, what most people call mainstream media. I call it legacy media. It's like a legacy port on your computer. It's there. It doesn't do anything. Nobody knows why it's still there, but it's still there. You still, anyway. there's an alternative. There are blogs, there are podcasts, there's YouTube. People can get their news other ways. And we want to reach out to the people that are doing the alternative media. We want to reach out to those people, work them together, make sure they're more effective in their media, that they're better with their reach, so that they get their media better, they reach more people, they're more successful, and if they're more successful, that means the Second Amendment cause is moved further along.
Right. Well, okay. So let's talk about what's happening. So last year, because of COVID and all of that kind of thing, the AmCon was held virtually. And though it happened, it was still virtual. This year, it's going to happen in person, and that's really what we're talking about, because the date has been set. We're not able to give everybody a year's worth of notice, which is typically what they get for AmCon. So we're really reaching out, talking to people so that people know that it exists, and then knows kind of that they can contact you, see if they've got the media credentials associated to be able to come to it, because it is an amazing place. It's a 2-day, now it's a 2-day or day and a half conference that is educational, and it is free. So you've got to get there, but the conference itself is absolutely free. So think about any kind of an educational conference that you don't have to pay anything for, that you're going to learn how to get better at your craft, that you potentially then can get paid for doing the craft itself. So, right?
October 2nd and 3rd in Dallas, Texas. We are at the Westin Fort Worth Airport, I think.
Right.
It's
the Dallas. Question. Yeah, it's the Dallas Fort Worth Westin. They're right by the airport is where it is. So we've got a block of rooms, and I say we because Paul is the founder, co-founder. He and his wife, they're a team. They walk as one, they talk as one. So they are the AmCon. They are the AmCon creators and the AmCon team, and so he's got a couple people that he has wrangled into assisting him with his vision, and that's really where I come in. And so I've been kind of on the committee that gives them ideas and floats things past them to see what they think. But you'll need to is the website AmCon
AmCon.org.
AmCon.org. Okay.
Yes.
So if you go to that, you can look up the information. You can contact them, but you have to be in Second Amendment media or starting out in Second Amendment media. So let's say you're working for one of the state organizations and you're doing their blog or you're writing for them. That meets the criteria.
Yes.
You know, if you're starting to do a podcast, or if you are doing a podcast, or you're submitting articles to AmmoLand or Bearing Arms, or there's so many unnamed ones, but that kind of a thing also meets the criteria. But what kind of things can they expect? Should they expect? And why does anybody else really care about this?
Well, things we've talked about in the past are things like monetizing your content. How do you make money off of what you do? Things like to the bigger audience. Things like see in your media. How to get it the first time. I mean, those are topics that have been covered in the past. Incredibly important things to get right.
I lost you. You're kind of locking up a little bit. How to do something the first time. How to do what the first time?
How to get it right the first time. Accuracy in your media. How to make sure what you're putting out is right.
Oh, you mean not fake news? You're 2A news, not fake news? How can that be?
Exactly. So, and then if you want a little bit about look at a little bit about what we do, go to the Facebook page for AmCon. Last year's videos are still up there.
Oh,
you can see what last year looked like.
Okay, and that's open to anybody, right? Is it?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So there, you can see if that's something that you think that would be of interest, so that you can go to your website guy, you can go to the director of your organization, you can go to your editor, you can go to whoever and say, hey, I'd really like to go to this. And there's a lot of value to it, and a lot of really, so that they make it easy to be better, and you can learn from them. So you can actually reach out to those people that are truly in the industry and say, how do you do this, or how do you do that?
You can stop them in the hallway and talk to them, or sit and have breakfast with them.
And you can say, look, I'm thinking I want to do a podcast. And they'll say, here, do this, don't do that. Here's how you do this. I mean, there are people who are coming to the thing that their podcasts are in the top 0.5% of all podcasts produced in listener audience, listener participation, and that. So when your podcast on a Second Amendment issue is in the top 0.5%, that pretty much says that you're doing something right. There's
people want to hear about it anyhow.
Right, exactly. And so learning those kinds of things. I know that we're talking to somebody also about newer things. So how do you get your message across? How do you grow your market? So we're talking to somebody about social media and coming on to give us social media growth points. So Paul, you're back?
I am back. Can you hear me now?
Yes. So so tell us. So I just carried on with who all was there. Not that I'm name dropping, but I name dropped big time. So so what do you think that the best thing that you learned in the last couple of years was from it?
I learned that I have an amazing team behind me, simply because up until normally Gun Rights Policy Conference and AmCon happen